The latest in litigation against Illinois gun laws, something that we've been tracking practically every day that we put stuff out. And it's interesting to see some of the different things that are happening. But those of you waiting for the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals to release their ruling on the challenge of Illinois' gun and magazine ban on Second Amendment grounds, we're still waiting for that. That has not been released, and it's been, months now since they've heard this. And a lot of people speculating on when exactly this is going to be dropped because, of course, we're coming up on October 1st, which is the window opening for the registry of those firearms that the legislature banned. And you got the January 1st deadline to actually file an affidavit, quote, voluntarily, or you face criminal penalties. And that's coming up again by the end of this year. But you had the Seventh Circuit's U.S. Court of Appeals hear this challenge months ago, and we're still waiting. And curious as to why it's taking so long to get that ruling out of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. But if you ask attorneys, hey, what kind of timeline can you give us? The kind of standard response is courts work at their own pace. So whatever that means. But you do have a challenge of the vagueness issues around the gun ban and registry that Thomas Magg is going to bring to the Southern District of Illinois federal courts. So that's going to be next month. We'll see how that goes. But a couple of other cases that we do have some updates on. One in particular, that lawsuit challenging Illinois' law allowing for people to sue the gun industry. If you recall, this was passed in spring session, and the governor signed it, and it ultimately would allow for the Illinois Attorney General or for any private citizen to go after any player in the gun industry. Manufacturers, retailers, or gun clubs. It's kind of ambiguous as to what kind of gun industry actors would be subject to these types of lawsuits, but it would allow for lawsuits against the gun industry for how they advertise, but also for allegedly making the community less safe. So that measure passed, it was signed into law, and instantly you had a lawsuit filed. And this lawsuit was filed by gun rights advocates, and the latest in that was actually yesterday, where an order granted the state's motion for an extension in their response to a preliminary injunction request. So you had the gun rights groups come in, almost instantly sue the state after Governor J.B. Pritzker signed this law. And the process plays out, and you look at the most recent docket entry yesterday, and it says, order, defendant's motion for an extension, because the state asked for an extension, is granted. Defendant's response to plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction, which would hold the law while the case plays out, shall be filed no later than October 19th. So the judge in this case, Stacey Yandel, yesterday, indicating that the state's motion for an extension of response to their preliminary injunction request is granted. So October 19th is when we're going to get that response. So that's the latest where we're at on the litigation against Illinois gun laws. Still no update out of the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, the Seventh Circuit. Still waiting for the Southern District to hear the case on vagueness grounds. That deals with the gun and magazine ban. But then you have the separate lawsuit against the measure that allows for people to sue the gun industry in Illinois. That lawsuit against that law, that has now been updated with the most recent docket entry saying that indeed the state is allowed to have a delayed response to the request for a preliminary injunction, and that'll come October 19th. So there you go. The latest right here. And if you need more, you can always follow along. Bishop on Air. Again, Bishop on Air on X, YouTube, Facebook. Just search it out. Again, Bishop on Air.